All right. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I hope you all are having a wonderful Tuesday. It's a gloomy sky, but we still have a beautiful view. So, very thankful for that. I am not Tom Collette, as you may can tell. And so I'm going to wear the hat of Sergeant at Arms and President, but I will not be the song leader. Okay. So, that is much to your benefit. Yes, indeed. That's resounding yes to that. So, welcome to our guests. If you're visiting virtually on Zoom, type in your name so we can recognize you. And if you watch this later on YouTube, please send an email to info@rotarygainesville.org so we can log that in for you. So, Pete was not able to make it, but Tom, he's walking up the steps. All right, Tom. Tom zooming in, he was going to, but if Pete's ready, coming in hot. Coming in hot. You ready, buddy? You It's all yours. You good?
Wow.
Pick it.
I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
Standing
I must confess that when I was younger, I had an addiction to the hokey pokey. But as I got older, I turned myself around. How about My Country 'Tis of Thee? Oh, sorry. God bless America. Yeah, okay. That's what I get for being late. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing like stepping in hot and appreciate it very much. And Tom, thanks for last minute text agreeing to step up if needed. And thank you, Don, helping me out today as well, running the equipment. So appreciate it. We now have via Zoom either Steve or Catherine Price for the invocation.
Good afternoon, friends. It's Steve today, and I invite you to join me in a word of prayer. Holy God, we pause at the center of this day for a time of refreshment with one another. We begin by centering our attention on you, source of all goodness and blessing. We thank you for your abundant grace, for family and friends, for meaningful work, and for opportunities to serve the common good. We remember those who have gone before us in seeking to raise us to the highest of ideals for our lives, our communities, our nation, and our world. As we look ahead to this weekend, we especially remember two of our great presidents, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. And in this month, when we remember the history of a people too long oppressed, we also give thanks for witnesses like Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, and Denmark Vesey, who helped us see that there cannot be freedom for some until there is freedom for all. In this hour, may our spirits be rejuvenated and our lives enriched by the conversations we share, the food we eat, and the knowledge we gain. And may we go from this time ready to do all the good we can in a world that so desperately needs it. Amen.
Amen. You can be seated. Thank you very much, Steve. And a thank you to Jason Shank. He has the mic. If we have any guest of Rotarians or any visiting Rotarians, if you would stand, introduce your guest, or for visiting, I see we have returning visiting Rotarian.
I'm Lubna. I'm from Rotary Club of Amman, Amun, in Amman, Jordan, Middle East.
Welcome. And Lubna, I believe you have something that you would like to exchange, right? She joined us last year for several meetings, and we had spoke last week, and she's here for a few weeks again this year. And they have a new club flag. And so she would like to exchange flags at this time. Thank you. I appreciate that. I know watching the attendees over Zoom over the past months, Luna's been able to attend a lot of meetings since last year and join in and participate in that way. So that's been great. Thank you, Jason. And I was scanning through, and I'll double check again later when I sit back down. I'm not seeing any other guests at this time. Nope. And so none in the chat. So moving on, we have two announcements via Zoom. First is TJ Pache, if we can give him the Zoom mic.
I'm not seeing TJ logged in today.
Okay. Well, I will get some notes together real fast, and let's allow Miss Jenny Van Hart to make an announcement, please.
Good morning, everyone. During this pandemic, student attendance, engagement, and tardies have been a constant struggle for Alachua County School administrators for both bricks and mortar and digital academy students. With the goal of inspiring both students and families to commit to improving their attendance and engagement records, the wonderful Kelly Costomo and staff have put together an incentive program with weekly, monthly, and semester prizes. I'm excited to announce that last night, our board approved the sponsorship of one entire school for our district, with our do-goodery funds, those contributions you make every quarter to provide incentives for students and families to improve their attendance. As an added piece of awesomeness, this donation is being doubled through a matching grant from Florida Credit Union. So really we're sponsoring two schools, which is awesome. In addition to a check, the board wants our members to be part of this fun service project. So if you're interested, the idea is to create themed gift baskets to use as monthly drawings for elementary school students. These baskets don't need to be extravagant or expensive, just fun and appealing, underline the word appealing, to K-5 students. It could be a fun game night with card games, pizza gift card, and a 2-liter bottle of soda, or a cupcake making kit, a reading basket of books and a flashlight and a new pillowcase, an ice cream sundae kit with sprinkles and scoop and fudge sauce, and maybe a gift card for the ice cream. The sky's the limit. We just want it to be fun for the students, so they want to win it, so they want to actually score this awesome basket. I have a great list of suggestions that I will share with the club soon, and I'll post it on Facebook. Students are struggling right now with every aspect of their lives, not just at school. This is a small thing to help them feel supported and encouraged to do their best. Just attending school in person or digitally helps provide stability and opportunity and positively impacts their education. I will be your point of contact and can arrange pickup, or you can drop them off at my office if that's more convenient, and I will get them to Kelly to hand out to the schools. Contact me for more information. You all know where I am. Thank you, President Matthew, for the opportunity.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. And, you know, again, that's do-goodery. We're starting to put that to work in new ways, okay? It's a real need. You look at the areas of focus for Rotary, education is one of those significant areas of focus, and this is a way to help. And so again, not to continue to tax our membership, but so many times there's members that say, is there something I can do? It's an opportunity, right? The word of the year, opportunity. If you can and want to, great. And we want to make sure we present that. But there's no requirement, and there's no arm wrestling or arm twisting. So I appreciate Jenny and Kelly bringing that forth, and the board voting on that last night. TJ was going to make an announcement about tomorrow morning. There is a volunteer time, roll up the sleeves and pack backpacks for students, and that food service area for students in the weekend backpack program. And so that's tomorrow. I was not able to pull up quick enough the time. I think it's 9ish or something. But if you're interested, let TJ or myself know. It's on the newsletter. It's there, and get you signed up to help out in that way. And the other is February 20th is the river trip and cleanup. So again, this is a free opportunity to, canoe and work and serve and help clean up in that way. So I think the last communication from him, there's only about 5 signed up. So there's more spaces for that. And please, if you can and would like to, I think it's a great service, but being out there, I think you'll find it's also a great fellowship opportunity. So thank you, Bill. He's looking at the sheet. 9:30 tomorrow morning. So thank you very much on the backpack. 9:30 tomorrow morning. All right. Without further ado, I'm going to ask the mic to go back to Jenny Van Hart to introduce today's speaker. Thank you.
Hello again. You may have read about Lindsay Griswold in a recent edition of the Rotary magazine. It's through that article that my stalking began to ask her to speak to us. Lindsay works with Rotary districts to establish standards for student safety across the Rotary Youth Exchange Program. She manages both the certification and evaluation programs, as well as assists in the handling of youth protection reports. Lindsay received her BA in Speech and Hearing Sciences from Indiana University, and afterwards served in Peace Corps Kenya as a deaf education volunteer. Upon returning to the US, she served in AmeriCorps, worked in Chicago public schools, and received her MA in social work from the University of Chicago. Most recently, Lindsay became a certified nonprofit professional through the Nonprofit Leadership Alliance. Lindsay is passionate about youth programming, peace-building initiatives, and international service learning. Currently, she joins the Youth Exchange and Youth Protection team remotely from Asheville, Carolina, where she joins us today, where she lives with her spouse and her beloved dog. She enjoys adventuring in the great outdoors, perfect for pandemics, discovering new restaurants and craft breweries, not so much, dancing, practicing yoga, reading, and craftism, which I love. That's a great phrase. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Lindsay. Thank you.
Thank you, and hello, Rotary members of Gainesville. I so appreciate you having me here as your virtual guest speaker today. And although Rotary is headquartered in Evanston, Illinois, as Jenny said, I have been telecommuting from my home here in Asheville, North Carolina, just 500 miles north of you for the past 5 years. This virtual landscape isn't anything new for me, but even as an introvert, I sure do miss seeing people in real life. Let's dive right in. As you know, Rotary has 6 areas of focus, with the 7th area, supporting the environment, announced at the beginning of this Rotary year. Because February is Peacebuilding and Conflict Resolution Month, a time in which we celebrate our commitment to building peace and mitigating conflict, Jenny has invited me to speak today about my various experiences in peace work. I've been with Rotary for 7 years. Specifically, I work as the Senior Specialist for Youth Exchange and Youth Protection. As you know, since your club has both hosted and sponsored students, Rotary Youth Exchange is a worldwide study abroad program for students ages 15 to 19. During their exchange year, students learn how to build peace and become global citizens while sharing their own customs, cultures, and traditions and embracing new ones. As members of an international service organization, I'm willing to bet many of you have traveled abroad. Any favorite places you've been? Put them in the Zoom chat, or if you're in the room, feel free to chat about it in person. Let's see where you've been. I'm sure we've been somewhere, right? Well, if you have been somewhere and traveled abroad, imagine doing that. Oh, New Zealand. Okay. Jenny, thank you. I thought I heard an accent. Portugal, Japan. Awesome. Switzerland, Spain, Denmark, England. Okay, now imagine doing that when you were in high school. It's a pretty transformative experience. As 2006-2007 Rotary International President Carl Wilhelm Stahnhammer said, if every 17-year-old student went on a Rotary Youth Exchange, there would be no more war in the world. Youth Exchange students are some of our youngest peace builders and true ambassadors of Rotary. Before the pandemic, a lot of my work consisted of traveling internationally to conduct evaluations of local youth exchange programs. This involved multiple days of both quantitative and qualitative data collection through reviews of policy documents and in-person interviews. So far, I've conducted on-site evaluations in more than 10 countries across 4 continents. Some of my favorite evaluations have been to Italy, Taiwan, and Bolivia. I've also supported conventions in Atlanta, Toronto, and Hamburg, and this certainly is not a bad gig. I didn't study international relations or international education in order to work at Rotary. As Jenny said, I graduated from Indiana University, a Big Ten school, with a bachelor's in speech and hearing sciences. This involved taking coursework like sociolinguistics, communication disorders, phonology, and my favorite, American Sign Language. Even though I love my undergrad coursework, I wasn't sure I wanted to have a career as a speech and language pathologist, which is a popular path for speech and hearing grads. I also knew I needed a break from education, but did not want to move back to my hometown to figure out what did I want to be when I grew up. So naturally, at the beginning of my senior year of college, I applied to join the Peace Corps, one of Rotary's 16 official partners. Some of our other partners include the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, of course, the CDC, the WHO, Shelterbox, and Habitat for Humanity. Partnerships allow Rotary to make a bigger difference in and impact on the world. Back to Peace Corps, at the time when I applied, you simply sent in your materials, and if accepted, the Peace Corps chose your country of service and your volunteer sector. Now it looks more like a traditional job application where you choose where you'd like to go and what you'd like to do. So for me, at the time, it was a big gamble, putting myself out there like that and knowing they could send me anywhere and I could do anything. But it turns out it was a successful gamble because the September after I graduated, I got on a plane in DC with 15 other volunteers and off to Kenya we went. Because I'd studied speech and hearing sciences and took American Sign Language in college, I was selected for the deaf education sector. This is our deaf ed group having some post-training libations, and that's me with the white headband and sunglasses. In total, we had 180 Peace Corps volunteers in Kenya, with 50 total in our smaller training group. And aside from deaf education, we had volunteers in math and science education, business economic development, and public health. When we arrived in Kenya, we spent 3 months living with host families in a small town called Kitui, about 3 hours east of Nairobi. There we learned the Kenyan way of life, including things like collecting water so we could take bath in a bucket and do laundry by hand. I was obviously really good at this task, as you can see here. We learned how to cook local dishes. This is chapati, which is basically an East African tortilla, but thicker and a little oilier. And taking local transportation. This is a 12-passenger van called a matatu, which is more or less a public taxi with a specified route. Like the majority of people in the community, my host family, the Kayingos, were maize farmers. Maize is the same as corn. So here we are standing in front of their shamba, or farmland. Most Kenyans live with extended family in a compound with a few houses. In my host family, there were 2 parents and their 3 adult children, along with their spouses and a ton of kiddos. And every day I left my host family's home to meet up with my fellow Peace Corps volunteers, and we'd walk a few kilometers down the main red dirt road to the community center in town. There we had language, cross-cultural, technical, medical, security, development, and field trainings. Specifically, our deaf education group learned about the history and norms of deaf culture in the country, as well as Kenyan Sign Language, or KSL, which is different than American Sign Language. Many people who aren't familiar with deaf culture ask, isn't sign language the same in every country? But just like spoken languages, sign languages vary. Think of them like 2 of the major Romance languages, Portuguese and Spanish. There are many similarities between those 2 languages, but they are not the same. For example, counting in American Sign Language goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In Kenyan Sign Language, it goes 1, 2, 3, so that's the same, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they're similar, but different too. Back to Kenya. For a quick geography refresher, Kenya is just below the Horn of Africa, with the equator cutting right through the middle. Here's a close-up of the country, and this is Kitui, where we had training. After training, we were assigned as teachers at schools for the deaf in rural communities across Kenya. I was placed at Gede Special School in Coast Province. Gede is a small village in a national forest reserve just outside of Watamu, a coastal town and marine national park right near the Indian Ocean. A predominantly Muslim community, I heard the call to prayer 5 times a day, starting at 5 a.m. every morning. The Gede ruins, a historical and archaeological site, were in my backyard. Quite literally, this photo was taken directly behind my house. The ruins are from the 1100s and were built by a Swahili Arab coastal settlement. I really could not have asked for a better site, and it was not ugly, to say the least. My fellow volunteers in Coast Province obnoxiously called our experience beach core, but what can I say, it was kind of true. These are my class 4 or 4th grade students, and you can see that the majority look older than the typical 9 or 10-year-old 4th grader, and you're right, because most were in their teens. The oldest student was 22 years old. Kenyan society sees deafness as a curse, and so families with deaf children would hide them away and not allow them to have access to language, much less school. Kupata, the 22-year-old, he's the furthest to the right in the back row, only started school when he was discovered by our headmaster in a nearby village. I taught English, math, science, social studies, and art, all in Kenyan Sign Language. Here's the student body sign singing at the morning assembly. And Gede Special School not only supports students who are deaf, but also those who have physical and cognitive disabilities such as cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and even polio. And while I was not aware of the significance that Rotary would have in my life later, Gede Special School was built by the Rotary Club of Malindi, Kenya, a few months before my arrival. And you can see the old Rotary wheel right there. Talk about foreshadowing my professional future. It's really amazing. The students at Gede were curious and active, the classrooms were small and simple, and my fellow teachers were supportive and dedicated. Peace Corps has been described as the toughest job you'll ever love, and that was certainly true in my experience. Great challenges and even greater joys. My service was really wonderful. Unfortunately, this joy and wonderment was brought to an abrupt end 10 months earlier than expected. Trigger warning for these next 3 photos, which are from articles by The Guardian and New York Times. The entire Peace Corps program was evacuated due to tribal violence around the presidential election, and it was not a peaceful time. I remember in training, we had to sketch these maps of our sites and indicate where the best place a helicopter could land in case something bad happened. And we all thought it was so overly cautious. Well, not so for the 10 volunteers in the western part of the country who had to be evacuated by helicopter because of mob violence and rioting. It was so bad. And not so when one volunteer in our group witnessed 50 Kenyans burn alive in a church. So now, as someone who works in the study abroad and student safety sector, I understand the importance of crisis management and contingency planning. And those helicopter landing maps don't seem so silly now. Keeping students safe and protecting them is one of the mainstays of Rotary Youth Exchange, and it's one of the reasons the RI board decided to suspend the program for this 2021 Rotary year. And while we don't have any students currently on in-person exchanges, some are doing virtual exchanges. I'd like to give you some numbers for the 1920 Rotary year, which we calculated by district, then by multi-district, and then by all districts worldwide. So as you know, the Rotary Club of Gainesville is a member of District 6970. In total, the district hosted 20 long-term exchange students during the 1920 Rotary year. Long-term exchanges typically last an entire academic year. For short-term exchanges, which last for a few weeks to a few short months, District 6970 hosted 10 students, all of which were direct family-to-family exchanges. So that's some easy math. In total, 30 students from District 6970. That's 30 new young Rotary Peace Builders in your district. District 6970 is also a member of the Rotary Youth Exchange Florida Multi-District, which is made up of 6 different districts in Florida and Georgia. As a multi-district, Rotary Youth Exchange Florida hosted 71 long-term students. And many districts in RYE Florida don't host short-term exchange students. In fact, your District 6970 is the only one. So again, 10 short-term students were technically hosted by the multi-district. And some more easy math, that's 81 total students from RYE Florida. Now let's scale that up quite a bit to worldwide data. In total, 401 certified districts around the Rotary world hosted 5,977 long-term exchange students. For short-term exchanges, certified districts hosted 2,206 students. And that is an awesome total of 8,183 exchange students that were hosted by Rotary districts worldwide. The RI board's decision for the 21-22 exchange year is still pending and will be made at the RI board's upcoming March meeting. We'll be sure to reach out to the appropriate district leaders and multi-district leaders as soon as we know what has been decided. All right, now let's transition to another peacebuilding initiative Rotary has with a different partner. The Institute for Economics and Peace, or IEP, is the world's leading nonprofit think tank that produces research for practitioners in the field of peace studies. It's also a thought leader in peace and conflict resolution. This partnership, which was announced in 2017, allows our organizations to work together to create an online learning platform with webinars and interactive tools to teach Rotary members, as well as helps Rotary Peace Fellows apply new peacebuilding methods to their communities and address underlying causes of conflict. The partnership also allows for the development of local workshops hosted by Rotary clubs to educate members about positive peace, which we'll get to here in a minute. So IEP's predominant goal is to create a cultural shift in the way the world thinks of peace through a data-driven process. It does this by developing global and national indices, calculating the economic cost of violence, analyzing country-level risk, and understanding positive peace. Peace is a tangible measure of human well-being and development and an essential prereq for the survival of humanity. The research is used extensively by governments, academic institutions, other think tanks, NGOs, and intergovernmental institutions. IEP has 6 offices worldwide, which you can see here. In 2008, IEP produced the first report, the Global Peace Index, or GPI, under the belief of, if you can't measure it, you can't understand it. The GPI is the world's leading measure of national peacefulness, with the long-term goal to help create a world that is more peaceful for the majority of the people on the planet. The GPI has been produced annually since its inception, with the most recent report from 2020. The GPI measures and quantifies economic values of peace across 163 nations, which is 99.7% of the world population. And it measures both negative and positive peace. And these might be terms you've not heard before, so let's go through their definitions. Negative peace is the absence of violence or fear of violence, while positive peace is the attitudes, institutions, and structures that create and sustain peace. In essence, as their name suggests, they're opposites. The GPI uses 23 qualitative and quantitative indicators to measure the state of peace across 3 thematic domains. The data is then used to rank countries from most to least peaceful. And it's important to note that the rankings do not mean that one country is better than another. It just means one country is more or less peaceful relative to another. The GPI does not place a moral value or value judgment on where countries are ranked in the index. In general, peacefulness has declined year over year for 10 of the last 12 years. And overall, 81 countries became more peaceful, while 80 countries deteriorated in peace. The 2020 report reveals a world in which the conflicts and crises that emerged in the past decade have begun to abate, only to be replaced with a new wave of tension and uncertainty as a result of this pandemic that we're all in. So maybe we can do a little more guessing game in the chat. Let's use the knowledge you have about the world or discuss in the room. For what country do you think ranks highest on the GPI? Which country is the most peaceful? Which do you think? Sweden, we have a guess. Japan, Canada. Canada's a good guess. The most peaceful country according to the GPI is Iceland. So it's no big surprise, many Scandinavian countries rank pretty high on this index. All right, using your knowledge of the world, what do you think, which country do you think ranks lowest on the GPI? Any thoughts on that one? Sudan, that's a good guess. India, Somalia. The answer is actually Afghanistan, and that's, again, not really a big surprise. It's understandable because of it's mired in conflict as well as many of its neighbors. All right, the Positive Peace Report or Peace Index or PPI was created in 2009, 1 year after the GPI. The most recent report is from 2019. So the PPI, as you might have guessed, measures positive peace. And as a reminder, positive peace describes the attitudes, structures, and institutions that underpin and sustain peaceful societies. The well-being of our country depends on building positive peace. And by measuring it, we can begin to understand the factors that either cause or damage peace building. So to measure positive peace, IEP has developed a conceptual framework known as the Pillars of Peace, and that outlines a system of 8 factors that work together as a sort of web to build positive peace. These pillars provide a roadmap to overcome adversity and conflict and to build lasting peace. They are derived from data sets with a strong correlation with internal peacefulness as measured by the GPI. So in essence, PPI cannot exist without the GPI. The most peaceful countries in the world share one characteristic. They demonstrate strength in all 8 pillars of positive peace. They are also more likely to maintain stability within their country, and we can see high levels of positive peace in countries where violence is less tolerated, society's needs are met, and there are structures already in place that enforce nonviolent solutions to problems. Countries that have higher levels of positive peace are also associated with other desirable social characteristics, such as better economic outcomes, higher measures of well-being, higher levels of inclusiveness, and better environmental performances. And these are characteristics inherent to a peaceful society. Positive peace is really slow moving, but the PPI has shown an improvement of 2.4% since it first started being measured. Some other interesting facts are that countries that improve their positive peace outperform the GDP global average. And especially pertinent in 2020, while natural disasters, and I think we could pretty much consider COVID-19 as a sort of natural disaster, are just as frequent in high positive peace country as they are in low positive peace countries. Those countries with lower levels of positive peace have higher fatalities. All right, let's do another guessing game before we wrap up. Which country do you think ranks highest on the PPI? Which country has attitudes, institutes, and structures that create and sustain peace? We have a guess for the USA. Jenny thinks New Zealand. Other guesses for positive peace? I'd love to hear what y'all are discussing in the room, but all right. See if anyone's guessed. Another guess for Japan. We have Norway. So again, Scandinavia takes the cake. And which country do you think ranks lowest on the PPI? Which country has the least amount of attitudes, institutes, and structures that create and sustain peace? Iran, Sudan, Saudi Arabia. Afghanistan again, someone actually guessed it when we were doing the GPI. It is Somalia. They rank lowest on the PPI. They currently do not have a strong system to create and sustain peace in country. So these reports and stats are all great, but how does this help Rotary members in the practical sense? Peace underscores much of the work our members do to improve their communities and their work around the world. Our peace building initiatives seek to create environments where lasting peace is possible, and we do this by continually investing in sustainable and measurable peace programs throughout our communities and across the globe. By creating an extensive network of peace builders and community leaders dedicated to peace and conflict prevention, and by providing Rotary members with several avenues in which they can actively participate in peace building processes within their communities. One of these avenues, as part of our partnership with IEP, is the Rotary Positive Peace Academy, a free online learning platform that includes modules and interactive tools to teach users how to apply new peace-building methods and mobilize communities to address the underlying causes of conflict. You can go to rotarypositivepeace.org and download a presentation guide to learn how to conduct trainings about the Academy for your club or district or in District 6970. And you can also learn how to take action in your community, spread goodwill, which we know we love at Rotary, initiate your own peace building project, or support an existing project. As RI President Holger Canuck wrote for this month's President's Message section of Rotary Magazine, February 23rd is our anniversary and also the month when we focus on promoting peace. And there's a reason for this. Contributing to peace and international understanding has been a high priority for us since our earliest days. We've lasted 116 years because of our strong ethics, our passion for service, and our unique approach to problem solving. One of our greatest strengths is how we reach across our communities and across national, ethnic, religious, and political divisions to unite people of all backgrounds and to help others. This month, let's celebrate our history and the many ways that Rotary opens opportunities to advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace, our ultimate mission. So thank you so much for having me here on this Rotary Peace journey today. We'll have a few questions now, and I saw some in the chat that I'll get to too. But if you'd like to reach out about anything I share with you today or otherwise, you can email myself or any of my 5 colleagues on the Youth Exchange and Youth Protection team at youthprotection@rotary.org. Thank you again for having me, and I look forward to our future conversations.
Lindsay, great job. We have a couple questions here from the Cade Museum. The first one came from Jenny Van Hart, and she wants to know, how do you battle the volunteerism concerns that many have with students going overseas to help?
Can you expand on that a little more, Jenny? I just want to make sure I understand the question.
Yeah, so what I meant was there's that concept of volunteerism where you're going overseas to help, in quotation marks. You're coming in as the white savior,
Yep.
Going to African countries, for example, and because you're white, you're considered knowledgeable and superseding the locals. And I realize that RYE is not that concept, but it could be construed as that in some aspects, depending on where those students go.
Right. And so I think I definitely have thought more about the white savior complex from my own Peace Corps experience. I went when I was 22, and I definitely had some of that probably going on. For Rotary Youth Exchange, our students, again, are international, so they're not all white or from high economic backgrounds. We take the sons and daughters of Rotarians, but also non-Rotarian families. And their service or their youth exchange experience is really about their academics and their cultural integration, and which is why we have our volunteer host families, as opposed to this focus on service. The service is more of the entire youth exchange experience. And some districts will have their students work on service projects, but it really is an academic exchange year for them to focus on their cultural integration. And they do that by learning the languages, by, again, living with host families, by going on vacations with them and trips, and just being in the local community and eating the local foods and going to school every day in a language that they don't know. So I wasn't a Rotary Youth Exchange student, so I might not be able to answer this question most accurately, but I haven't heard that too much, but I would love to hear from a Rotary Youth Exchange student about their thoughts on that. I'm sure they have a lot of thoughts.
Thank you. The next question comes from Mia Jones, and she asks, how is the U.S. ranked on the Peace Index?
I knew that was going to be a question. So on the GPI, or the Global Peace Index, the US ranks 121 out of 163. So it's on the lower end. There's colors associated with each one. So the top third is green, the bottom third is yellow, or the middle third is yellow, and the bottom third is red. And the US is on the bottom part of the yellow part. So we're pretty low on there. And then for the positive peace index, the US ranks 26 out of 163. Although, again, those reports, the PPI was from 2019. So I think for 2020, we'll see a difference. And I think definitely for 2021, the way this year has started, especially politically in the US, and I know Rotary is not a political organization, we're not talking about politics. I think we will see a difference though.
Okay, and a follow-up from Tom Collette. He asked, what is the makeup of the people who are compiling the two rankings?
What is the makeup? There are 163 countries, so it's those countries that are considered, and then there's indicators, there's domains, there's like 23 different points that they look at for each one. I can send those reports, which will have more information, and we'll let members dig in on their own time if that's helpful.
Great, thank you.
Awesome.
We have
Thanks.
Jason Shank in the audience if anybody has any questions from the floor. Okay, we have one coming.
Sure.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your presentation. I am our local RI coordinator
Awesome.
for our club, and Bill over here is the counselor. And we have done our best to keep the students who were in the pipeline kind of engaged and learning about Rotary and so on, so that even if they do not get to go abroad, that when they go to college or whatever, that they are at least aware of Rotary and what we do, and hopefully we're encouraging them to become Rotarians at some level at some point in time. I am open to suggestions. Are you hearing ways that some of the other clubs in the district are doing something similar?
So some districts are participating in virtual exchanges. So not in-person exchanges, but these virtual ones, and they're usually short-term. So districts can partner together with another district to sort of send students on these exchanges, and it's over Zoom. Usually they'll be partnered with another student so they can do this deep cultural sharing with that person. So that's one avenue. And District 6970 Youth Exchange Chair, I think it's Cassie Moyers, if I'm remembering correctly. She should have more information on if the district is participating in those virtual exchanges. And then you also have to remember we have Interact as a Rotary Youth program, and also RILA. And then if some of these students who are in high school are transitioning to college or universities, we also have Rotaract, of course. So fostering those kind of relationships to make sure that even if they can't go on a youth exchange, if they can get involved with Rotary in a different way, whether it's through a youth program or perhaps volunteering with your club for a service project, those are all great ways to keep them engaged.
Thank you. We have another question from the CADE.
Hi, Brendan Shortley. I was impressed to hear that we sent just over 30 of the 80 over from our district, 6970, 10 of which were short-term. Kind of sad to hear that nobody else in the state sends any short-term. What are we doing right, or what is the rest of the state doing wrong, and how could that be changed?
So I think this would be a great question for Cassie, who I know is not in this club, but it really, I've seen it depends on the interest of the districts. And so it could be that your district and the clubs in your district have always sent students on family-to-family exchanges. And this is a great opportunity for growth. So short-term exchanges are a great way to introduce students who maybe they don't want to commit whole academic year, and also for host families, because that's a huge responsibility to host a student. For students are required to have more than one host family, so they're usually not hosting for the entire academic year, but just hosting a student for a few weeks in the summer, typically that's when they happen, or over holidays, can be a great way to introduce families and their children to other cultures. So Cassie will have more information, but again, if your club is interested in participating in these short-term exchanges, or you know some students who would be good in your school districts, or your children or grandchildren, or just people in your community, that's a great way to get involved.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Either in chat or locally?
I see we have the district just started doing short-term exchanges recently, and you're very active in RILA. That's awesome.
Correct. Great job, Lindsay. Can we give
Thank
her a
you.
round of applause?
Thank you very much, Lindsay. That was a great presentation and a very timely presentation in our environment, and appreciate it very much, very, very much. And as you put up there on the screen, one of the backgrounds was Rotary Opens Opportunities, and apparently you know that's the theme this year. So you may already have one, but this one will be extra special. I'd like to send you the Rotary Opens Opportunities coin to remember the presentation today and to say thank you for presenting to us today. So
I don't have one. Thank you so much.
all right. So Tom always hooks me up with some really great quotes, and you touched on this very early in your presentation, and I noticed it in 3 of the 4 quotes tied back into something you said. So as we end out today, and before I get to it, my apologies, everyone. TJ was late, work emergency, but he did post he really needs at least 3 for tomorrow, 9:30 to like 11 at the latest. So at least 3, maybe 5. And his apologies for zooming in late, but that's the number for tomorrow if you can help. So for the quote of the day, peace is possible around the world and children are the answer. Quincy Jones. Have a great week, fellow Rotarians.